So I'm gonna do a talk about Woodhenge because that Robert Langdon guy is sort of like raised some good points that I think they're discussing, although they're quite sort of big points because he's kind of claiming that Woodhenge could have been a big tower with a beacon on the top of it. I've never been there, so I mean, the posts are meant to, the original post holes are meant to be wider, a lot wider than the ones that we see. These are only representations. The actual original holes are meant to be a lot wider. But there were massive, huge trees, really old ancient trees. And he says that it's possible that it could have been a large tower structure, you know. Now the thing is, I just found this video by this Elise Freshwater, and she went to the visitor centre for this Woodhenge, and they were saying that it was the first site that had been discovered by aerial photography, by a pilot, the first ever ancient site discovered by aerial photography, that he noticed it, and it's lucky that all of the evidence hasn't been completely and totally erased by farming and ploughing. Now, in one of the other groups that I'm in, one of the megalithic Irish megalithic group, we ended up talking about CataCombs. And I looked into the word of CataCombs, and comb is to comb or rake. And the word cat is, they use it for cattle, but also the word cat is, like for clawing, like a cat claws and combs with its claws. And the whole, like the whole symbol of the lion that they ended up adopting on the royal coat of arms, like the lion. It's got some significance to that, and it's not even of this country. The lion's kind of like from a foreign country. But we worked out that, so like basically catacombs, when you're ploughing the land with a plough and cattle, you're raking it, and you actually are not only, they say archaeology is destructive, you're not actually only destroying evidence of ancient settlements and destroying evidence of ancient sites and the existence of these interesting places like Woodhenge. You're actually, digging up, things and finding things like coins and so forth. But, there's a lot of the burial sites, a lot of the ancient, chambers and burial sites that get ploughed up, and obviously the ancient burial mounds are the tombs. So it's almost like you're combing out the tombs. So it's funny that you call them catacombs when they're like under a church or in a crypt, or something like you think of catacombs, under the pyramids, or in somewhere like Istanbul or somewhere like that. But when you're thinking of like a place that's very much like England, that's very much like Britain with a Celtic history, where everything was made of wood and the land is very soft. England has never really been anywhere rocky and solid like the Mediterranean, like ancient Greece, with a good solid foundation to build all these stone monuments and structures. We have very, very few ancient stone structures because everything that they built was out of wood. And therefore, it's difficult to know the full extent of everything that was made in wood. That's why it's very interesting, this Robert Langdon's proposal that, Woodhenge was a large tower with a beacon on it of some sort. And I want to talk about that in a separate video, because I've got a quite a long discussion that I want to talk about in a separate video to do with if it was. There are quite a lot of things worth talking about and worth noting when it comes to that subject. But I just wanted to note that, when she's brought up this issue that, supposedly it was the first site discovered by aerial photography, It's interesting. It was, I don't know if it was an RAF pilot or an actual, just a normal pilot who reported it. But the army are well known for massacring a lot of ancient sites themselves with the tanks, like on Sisbury Ring Hill Fort. The tanks, turfed up and tore up the ancient sites when they were practicing on there for the war, which we're informed of in one of the James Sainsbury videos. That's almost like CataCombs with the tank tracks. There's a very strong theme through history where there seems to be a lot of massacre, and a lot of destruction, and not necessarily in the name of archaeology. How archaeology is destructive in its nature. I don't think it has to be or should be. When we had the conquest, William the Conqueror, they massacred Old Sarum and raised it up in the middle, made a round table in the centre of it, and around the same time they massacred our hill fort here, when it's like a phallic shape, an elongated phallic shape, and they almost carved out the part, what might be interpreted as the area region where the sensitive part might be on the phallic shape of it. So there's quite a lot of massacre of these ancient sites going on in history. So there's a plane just flown directly over the top of us, really, really low down, when I've been complaining to the airport about it for ages, and then they kind of moved them away for a while, and now they've come back again. And now I'm started talking about the RAF and planes. I don't know how it's appeared, but just directly straight over the top of my window. And I've been putting loads of complaints about it for ages, which is quite a weird coincidence while I'm making this video. And my battery's going to go on my phone. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say, what I want to say before my battery goes is this, right? William the Conqueror tore up our ancient sites and actually targeted them with physical massacre and modification, multiple sites, right? Now, the Romans, when they came over here, they had a mission and an objective to erase the entire Druid culture. Our culture here was known for not writing stuff down on paper, right? Now, I know that the Library of Alexandria was apparently burned down and a lot of information destroyed, but the thing is that, the Christian religion was actually illegal at one point, but then that actually ended up taking off and becoming the main religion. This is after the Celtic religion actually dies out and is effectively erased. And the thing with the Christians is they did want to erase all of the pagan worship and culture, all of the information, the existence of them, really. And the thing that Howard Crowhurst is saying is that, these people who built Stonehenge, the ancient people, had a very, very academic knowledge, a very advanced academic capacity for calculating things, even more than the ancient Greeks, I mean, all these talks and the symbols of the sun and the moon and the motions. I've also realised that the word discuss, the word discus, like in the Olympics, you throw a discus, but that word is to discuss something, to talk about something. When you throw a disc, you throw it to one person and then you throw the disc back to another person, right? So if I've got a disc, I throw you the disc and then you throw me the disc back, right? Discus. But also to discuss it is to discuss, talk over a distance. So instead of like a fire beacon or a chain of fire beacons with flames like fire, if you had a big disc like you think of the gong, in the Irish clog teach you have a bell tower with a bell in it, you ring the bell to make the sound. But light travels, light is more effective over a longer distance than sound, right? For things like, communication, because you can ring a bell, but if you flash, a light can be seen from quite far away. I'm starting to wonder if they had a kind of network of towers with kind of like highly polished gongs on there, and when the sun was at a certain point on a clear day, they could reflect the light, like Morse code and flash. I've seen this in a couple of films. I forgot what film it's called now, but they also kind of have a similar sort of thing in the Gummy Bears cartoon as well. But if this is the case, Tolkien uses this model for the big wizard's towers in Lord of the Rings, and he also uses it for like the eye on top of the Sauron Tower. So if this was a plausible theory that academics could have kept in their own private circles, like Tolkien was a professor at Oxford and various universities, this would have been something that it seems like if it is, they already thought about it and already have been knocking it around, this idea. But I've only just come across it now with Robert Langdon. Well, I was going to save all that for the other discussion, but I might as well go on to it now. But what I'm thinking is, one of the main things of the prehistoric people who built the Stonehenge and who placed the recumbent circles and who built these chambers and who built Karnak and placed the alignments in Karnak and calculated the size of the planet and the longitude and latitude and long distance calculations, those people, they made the land into their map. They made the land itself was the map. They didn't have a map on a piece of paper. They made the actual world into the map. So they were like, pieces on the board game. And they made it so heavy and permanent that no one could move them around or mess with them or play with them. So you've got these obelisks, these stone circles, these massive objects that takes a whole village to put it there. It takes more than a whole village to move them. The permanence of them. So, it would almost take an entire Roman army to come and move them if they wanted to dismantle them. No village idiot could move them, right? And that was the legacy of those people. They set them in stone. So if you wanted to, if you really despised or hated such a culture and you wanted to erase it and its knowledge, you would have a hard time doing it unless you had an entire army. But one of the things that you could do after conquering them to help erase a lot of their history, this is, by the way, if you're doing it kind of like under a guise and not a lot of people are catching on or cottoning on to it, what you're doing, if you're kind of doing it like, like just like whistling Dixie and then just like, oh, nothing to see here, you know what I mean? Like, so is get people into farming. If you get them into farming and get them into ploughing, and if you get them into agriculture and you start, have a go with this plough and plant some seeds, you get them into plough the land out, and plough this land, and, soon we'll have this whole place ploughed, we'll have everyone ploughing. Oh, these people thought they could move stones and move mountains like giants, we'll show them. They could place all these giant stones and, everything's set in stone, we'll show them, we'll get them plowing the land and erase it all. That's what I'm starting to think now. But the thing is, the whole farming culture mainly comes from, the Middle East. We know that it originates from the Middle East and poppy seeds and planting seeds and growing all of the same crop, rather than educated people who know about the importance of, proper nutritious plants and small animals, like you can have snails and frogs and eels and very nutritious plants which give you a wide variety of diet and are actually nutritionally not too greedy to eat, entire cows and entire pigs and so forth. I'm really starting to see more of this kind of noughts and crosses game, this poppies versus the Liberty Caps, or this kind of like Middle East versus our area, and the religions from the cultures, at odds against each other, and almost like a game of slaps as well, one-upmanships of, religions taking over religions. But you might think, you're taking it a little bit far on that basis, but I don't think so. The Stonehenge and prehistoric people, remember, were for thousands and thousands of years. They're like 5,000 years, 4,000 years, 3,000 years, 2,000 years, 1,000 years, all that time of establishment, right? And then along comes only, 2,000 years ago, something happened when we have to go reset the whole calendar, and then here we've got, a Roman army, an entire army taking over Europe and so forth, and mysteriously they don't like any religions, not even Christianity, when it was young. But then suddenly after this big hoo-ha, then it's we'll have Christianity now, and here's the what's the symbol for that? Oh, it's a big cross on a flag. Eat poppies and be happy. Oh no, well, we can't have any of this psychedelic visionary business. No, we'll have to eradicate all that and you have to eat the poppy bread and be happy kind of thing. Then we end up that ends up becoming illegal in the late 1800s after all the smack dens in London or whatever, after they've cannonballed the Chinese to buy it from so forth. So I actually starting to think that clever, intelligent people on a mission, it's called a mission. It's called a mission, missionaries. They send these missionaries over, the saints. Now, I'm not knocking Pope Francis, but I think that way before this, Roman invasion, way before that,